Hello, and welcome to Candidates Up Front. This is a public interest election program of Berks Community Television and the League of Women Voters of Berks County. Our May 16th primary election is coming up. Democrats and Republicans will vote for judges, school directors, and county, township, borough, and city officials. The deadline to register to vote is May 1st. To check your voting status, go to votepa.gov. That's vote.pa.gov. You can register, change your party, locate your polling place, or apply for an absentee or mail-in ballot. The deadline to register is May 1st. The deadline to apply for a mail-in ballot is May 9th. The League is interviewing those candidates who wanted to be interviewed in contested races. For each race, the candidates will get the same basic questions and the same amount of time to answer them.
Hello, I'm Bill Litton with the League of Women Voters of Berks County. 5 candidates are competing in the Republican Party for a chance to be Berks County Commissioner. They are Michael Rivera, Christian Y. Leinbach, David Galowski, Maria Bogdanova Pfeiffer, and Mark C. Scott. Republican voters across the county will vote for 2 to be on the fall ballot. The Board of Commissioners is the chief governing body of the county. The 3 elected at-large members perform the executive and legislative functions of county government. The term is 4 years. The current annual salary is $110,339 for a commissioner and $113,678 for commissioner chair. Please note the opinions expressed in this interview are those of the candidate and not those of the League of Women Voters or Berks Community Television. This interview is with Mark C. Scott. Welcome.
Thanks, Bill. Nice to be here.
Mark, please tell our viewers about yourself and why you are running.
Well, I was commissioner for 24 years, and I've become very disenchanted and disturbed by the caliber of leadership since I departed 3 years ago. I believe the county can do better. I think decision-making at the county level has been entirely too political and not based on a reasoned analysis. I don't bring a lot of politics to decision-making. I'm more business-oriented and results-oriented, and I bring some assets to the office that I think would be very valuable. They proved valuable in the past. I'm a licensed attorney. I have a financial planning certificate. I was a township supervisor for 6 years. I was county solicitor for a year. I, of course, have 24 years as county commissioner. I was an entrepreneur. I worked in the banking sector briefly when I got out of college. I've got a strong economics background. And, you know, I'm sincere. I'm honest. I'm analytical. I try to be as apolitical as possible because I think that detracts from the decision-making process.
You've already talked about this a bit, but I'm going to follow the list of questions I have. What personal qualities do you have that would help you be an effective commissioner? And again, I think you've answered that to an extent.
Yeah, I think I have. And personal qualities, I always considered myself to be a public servant as opposed to a politician. I think people who are adept at politics know that I was a pretty mediocre politician. I was more interested in the public and making rational decisions than I was in promoting myself. I think that's what's wrong with politics in general, is the wrong people are attracted to it in general, not in all cases. And you know, the public pays a price for that. But the public, let me say this, has to be discerning and analytical in their own right. It's a two-way street here. The public has to make a wise decision, do their homework, and the elected official has to be honest and sincere.
Are you involved in volunteer community work currently? And if so, please tell us about it.
You know, Bill, after 24 years, when I retired from the commission, I decided that I would take a break and clean up a lot of the things that, honestly, I neglected while I was focused on the commissioner job. Things in my personal life. I've been helping my son on the farm. He's got a big agricultural operation. Sometimes I'm driving a tractor. Sometimes I'm transplanting vegetables. Public service, to me, came to an abrupt end in 2019 I'm eager to get back into it, but I've been taking care of my personal things that I neglected for the last couple of years.
Okay, let's talk. What do you think are the three issues facing the county that you think are the most important?
Well, it's hard to nail them down to just three. I think that everyone's talking about elections in the Republican Party. There's a lack of public trust in the electoral process for a number of reasons. There have been some failures in the conduct of elections. There has been litigation. I don't think the commissioners have treated the public with respect and negotiated in good faith to try to resolve those. I think there's conflicts of interest in the decision-making process that have paralyzed some of our institutions. I can get into detail, though I don't think we'll probably have that much time. And overall, I think the quality of life in Berks County is always a challenge. I got involved in running for commissioner because I was frustrated with my efforts to fight the Pottstown landfill in the early 1990s. And I realized that the municipalities need the help of a larger, more affluent and sophisticated organization. And to me, that was the county. And when I became commissioner, I focused my efforts on not just fiscal responsibility, but the quality of life overall. Not everything in the world is money. Quality of life matters.
Many governments, including the city of Reading, have developed environmental sustainability plans. Do you see that as a useful tool to prepare Berks County for the future? Why or why not?
Well, I think actions are more important than plans. I think most plans sit on a shelf and gather dust. And most planning processes tend to be pie in the sky and impractical. And I'm being honest about that. To me, action trumps planning. And when it comes to action, when it comes to the environment, quality of life, I mean, everything. I established, for example, the Environmental Defense Fund with the proceeds of a settlement with a landfill that we fought. We used those monies to back up townships that fought, for example, a power plant next to the Schwenkfelder Church, a historic church in Hereford Township, a medical waste disposal facility in Ruscombe Manor Township, the racetrack in Union Township, a number of other problematic facilities. You know, there's a lot of noxious land uses out there, and really zoning, county-wide zoning if possible, is probably the best way to fight those, along with having a litigation fund so that you can back up the townships when they try to fight off a well-heeled opponent who wants to take advantage of the public.
Let's talk transportation. Is there enough money to bring our roads and bridges up to standard?
Well, it's an old story, Bill. There's never been enough money for that, and there never will be. It's a matter of prioritizing those things. Frankly, I'm concerned about the congestion that's on the county roads, the safety issues that are attendant to that issue. But we've been making improvements, and the county has invested a lot of money in the past. We put up matching money in the past and to incentivize PennDOT to spend more money in Berks County. Right now, we're engaging in things, and some of these issues are interrelated. Economic development issues, for example, the warehouses. I want to touch on that. They want warehouses, developers do, on 222 and Route 10. Is warehouse the highest and best use of land for economic development in Berks County? Do we need more low-tech jobs, or would that land be better devoted to less intrusive employers that provide better jobs, higher wages, and have less impact on infrastructure? I think so. I think we can do better there.
Do you feel public transportation impacts economic development? Should the county invest more in public transportation?
I can't say we should invest more. We already have invested substantially in public transportation. You know, BARDA provides important worker access to some of the premier employers in Berks County, especially East Penn Manufacturing, as well as others. I'm not prepared to say we should spend more money. I mean, everybody wants to spend more money. I prefer to analyze what we are spending and see if we can spend it with greater effect.
Are there other transportation ideas you'd like to mention?
Yes. The airport. The Reading Airport is basically desolate. It's been suffering from conflicts of interest on its board of governance in the past and in the present. There is, until recently, a $12 million hangar and fueling project proposed by a private entrepreneur with grant monies that was ready to create additional high-quality, high-paying jobs, keep Quest Diagnostics, the premier tenant at the airport that buys the most fuel, on site. That was derailed by the commissioners. And frankly, the players at the airport, the tenants, to the extent that they're involved in campaign contributions and to the extent that they're involved in the actual governance of the airport authority, those are conflict of interest that have paralyzed the airport. That's wrong. Somebody should look into that. I've looked into it a great deal, and to me it's emblematic of what's wrong with economic development in Berks County. It's too political. It doesn't emphasize the private sector and its inherent advantages over the public.
Will our infrastructure, including technology, meet the needs of a growing economy? If not, what would you improve?
I think when we talk about infrastructure, most people talk about physical things. They talk about roads, they talk about buildings. With respect to the city of Reading and revitalization of the city of Reading, they always talked about building entertainment venues and buildings, we built a lot of them. Has it revitalized Reading? No. Has it revitalized the county? Not necessarily. To me, and maybe this is heresy, but I've always felt this way, tangible things aren't the most important. It's the intangible things in life that count the most. We need a stronger workforce. Why we have boroughs in the city, they're crumbling? Because the people living there don't make enough money. Why don't they make enough money? Because they don't have good jobs. Why don't they have good jobs? Because they don't have the proper workforce skills. And maybe some of their behavioral norms aren't up to snuff. Maybe there's a big drug, well, there is a big drug problem. But all these things need to be addressed, and they have to do with human infrastructure, not buildings, not physical infrastructure. I think we're better off physically than we are on a human level and our internal traits and our marketability of our workforce.
Childcare is hard to find and afford in Berks. Parents who want to work are stymied by the lack of care for their children. Should the county play a role in this area?
I think the county plays a role indirectly through funding nonprofits. I think that child care, first of all, is a personal responsibility of people who have children and their extended families, and there are opportunities there. They're not always the most convenient thing, but that's part of life. If you make a choice, you have to live with your choices. Now, do I favor helping people find appropriate child care? Yes, but I'd have to look at that in more detail. I'm honestly not an expert in child care. My child care days are long behind me, thankfully.
Very good. Most of the money the county spends for mental health comes from the state. The pandemic has affected the mental health of young and old alike. Is the county doing enough?
Well, mental health is a big issue, and it's affected by so many things. Technological innovations have, I think, harmed people. The drug pandemic really is probably worse than the COVID pandemic in terms of impact, especially on mental health. I believe that, for example, we should not be legalizing marijuana. I expect at some point this state will be foolish enough to do it, as Massachusetts and other states have done, and they've rued that decision. We have spent a lot of money on mental health in Berks County, but we need to look at outcomes. I know a lot of people in the mental health field, and they are concerned about the measurement of outcomes and the expenditure of monies in ways that are effective. I would like to look at that, or revisit it at the very least.
Building a new prison was put on hold by the current Board of Commissioners. What are your thoughts on when we should build, how large a facility we should have, and what programs we should have to prevent recidivism?
The jail is a big part, maybe the largest part of the Berks County budget in terms of actual county tax dollars and how they're spent. The jail has been controversial over the years. It's crumbling. It has a lot of problems. I can only imagine that 3 years since I was commissioner, they're only worse. The physical facility needs to be rebuilt, but it shouldn't be rebuilt with the input of all kinds of special interest groups who want a piece of the pie. When I was in office, I found a contractor would build it for around $200 million. That was the guesstimate. Now it's up to $350 million. Why? It's not just the increasing costs of materials. It's everybody wants to have their little private interest in place in the jail. And you have to remember something else. I'm all in favor of diversionary programs and preparing people for life when they exit the jail. But Berks County Prison is almost 100% people with less than 1 year sentences. They're either awaiting trial or they have a short-term sentence. And if you know anything about rehabilitation, it's hard to accomplish rehabilitation with a very short-term process. So you need follow-up after release. It's rather complicated. We should look at the private sector for more help in operating and building the jail. Government does a lousy job, in my opinion, of constructing jails. We don't need a Taj Mahal jail. We need a basic jail. We need programs that work. We need outcomes that are measurable. And we shouldn't be on a fishing expedition for how to make it more complicated and expensive. And that's what's happened, I believe, under the current administration.
Public parks are a huge antidote to the cabin fever of the pandemic. And public libraries are where people go without computers or internet to go to apply online for jobs. Is Berks investing adequately in these facilities?
I think Berks County has a strong presence in the library field. I think libraries are threatened, frankly, by the internet and people avoiding libraries, and they've diversified their function to include other public activities. I'm a big fan of libraries. I went to high school in the town that hosted the first public library in the United States, Peterborough, New Hampshire. Are we doing enough? I'd have to look at the numbers. I'd have to hear from people in the field. But I'm a strong supporter of libraries, and I think they do provide an important resource, especially for people lower income who are looking for jobs. I'm all in favor of that.
And the parks as well.
The parks, I'm going to take credit for something. I've got a long record of accomplishments. I could run through it, but we wouldn't have time. I'm proud of my accomplishments. One of them was taking Antietam Lake Park, the largest park in Berks County, from the city of Reading, which was going to develop it, and we took it through a creative legal strategy that I came up with because I have a legal background, and that was to take it by eminent domain. I did the case law research, and I figured out that we can do this. The solicitor didn't agree with me, but guess what? It worked. And now we have the largest park in Berks County in Antietam Lake. And I take credit for coming up with a strategy to accomplish that. It was one of my goals. I got it done.
Mark, please give us your closing statement. You have 2 minutes.
Oh, my.
Maybe 3.
Well, look, I'd like to restore public trust in county government. I think it's been eroded. I think the people in power think politically. Some of that's their fault, some of that's the system's fault, some of it's the public's fault. I'm willing to engage in the political process for the ultimate goal of providing public service. I'm not a single issue candidate. I have a broad range of experience and capabilities. I've got a strong resume. I'm proud of my record. I'm only interested in serving 1 term. I'm not quite as young as I used to be, though. As my father used to tell me, I still have an 18-year-old between my ears. I care about the community. I'm proud of my record. I have more to contribute. Quality of life matters, fiscal responsibility matters, voter participation and discernment matters. The decision-making process isn't mine, it's yours. I hope you make a wise decision.
Thank you, Mark C. Scott, for sharing your views with us.
Thank you.
Viewers, please remember there are 4 other candidates for commissioner on the Republican ballot. Michael Rivera, let me try that again. Michael Rivera, Christian Y. Leinbach, David Galowski, Maria Bogdanova Pfeiffer, and again, Mark C. Scott. You will vote for 2. For more information on candidates, go to the League's online voter's guide, vote411.org. All you have to do is type in your address. It will show you everyone on your particular ballot, along with information the candidates have provided. Vote 411 is safe. Please be prepared when you vote. Use vote411.org. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.
You will find the Candidates Up Front interviews on BCTV and on its website and its YouTube page. And for more information on candidates, you can go to the League's online voters guide, vote411.org, Or you can contact Berks County Election Services, elections@countyofberks.com. Their phone number is 610-478-6490. And thank you for watching Candidates Up Front.